For the 57th year, nearly 600 passionate amateur racers have gathered to select their national champions under a unique format. One race, winner take all. And for the first time in 7 years, their stage is America's National Park of Speed, Road America. Welcome to the Sports Car Club of America Runoffs, our broadcast presented by Mazda.
It is day one of the Hagerty Race Days at the SCCA National Championship Runoffs, and welcome to Road America, America's National Park of Speed. My name is Ryan Marine, Larry McLeod, and Hayward Wagner joining me here for this broadcast as we get set to crown our F500 national champions for the 2020 season. Fantastic field here, Larry. 16 cars in what might be the tightest field of F500 we've seen at the runoffs in the last several years.
It definitely is. And the man coming in typically as the favorite is our defending champion, Clint McMahon, and he's got a serious fight on his hands. He's not even on the front row. That's how tough this fight's going to be. Sports
Car Magazine's pick to win coming into this weekend, the reigning champion in this class as well. He will roll off in the 4th spot. It's Calvin Stewart who picked up the Tire Rack Pole Award winner from Novi, Michigan. A lot of experience here at this track and a remarkable lap on pole by about a second over second place James Wida, who hails from West Lafayette, Indiana.
Yeah, and it looks like out here that Calvin's got the top speed. Really has great trap speed around this place. Got a lot of experience out here, a former champ in this class, and he's going to lead this field down that front straight, and he is going to be screaming. There is nothing out here that makes a noise quite like that 600cc Suzuki down this front straight.
And we'll talk more about these power plants and these chassis in just a moment. Before the late developing stories down on the grid, let's get to our man on the grid, Hayward Wagner.
Guys, these F5 cars may look more like a go-kart than a race car, but these are sophisticated, real-deal race cars, many of them running 6-speed gearboxes and motorcycle engines. On the pole this year, Calvin Stewart, and Calvin is known for going fast at the end of a session. He set all of his qualifying fastest times at the end of a session. He's going to be fast at the end. His goal is to hold on to the pack for as long as he possibly can. Right behind him, James Wida. James is one of the old school guys. He's running the 2-stroke motor. We'll talk about that in just a second. A little bit further back on the grid is the one everyone's going to be watching, Clint McMahon. He's won some championships with this class. He was very fast in test day, never got a qualifying session that he was looking for. We're going to see if he can come through this field and challenge Calvin at the front. One thing to keep in mind, though, James Wade is second on the grid with the 2-stroke motor. Everybody else is running motorcycle motors, but motors that were designed to be out in the open air, getting a lot of air going through them. They're inside of full-bodied race cars now, so they're in a little bit out of their element. Meanwhile, Wida is running a 2-stroke motor out of a snowmobile, and in these conditions, these temperatures, the happiest motor is the one that was built to run in snow.
That's a fascinating development, and it adds an extra element of a storyline here for us, Larry, because in the past, I think it's been pretty clear-cut, at least that was the conventional wisdom, which direction to go as far as the power plants for these cars, but we're starting to rethink that a little bit on the strength of some of the performances from the various qualifying days.
Yeah, they are definitely starting to get the balance right between these two platforms. There's different challenges, and one of the things that they've done is there's a weight difference between them. The 600cc, the 4-cylinder bike motors, they are about 900 pounds. The 2-stroke motor, the Rotax 593 that Wida's running, that is 850. So it's about a 50-pound lighter weight there, which allows him through some of the twisty bits that we're going to see through the second sector that he may have a bit of an advantage. But we're also seeing that if you get your clutching right on these things, because it is a snowmobile drivetrain, that you can come off of corners pretty strong and lead to some pretty decent pull down the front straight, and then he's also carbureted, so it's very important for him to get his tuning right in these weather conditions.
And on the subject of the clutch, he's got a little ace in the hole, I think you could say, with the help he's been receiving this weekend.
Yeah, there's a guru out there, Mel Winnie, that apparently has been helping him set up those clutches, and he has definitely worked his magic on him, and he's been laying down some great times, and even talking to Clint McMahon yesterday, who was out on the track with James yesterday in that qualifying session, said that James was just really coming off of corners and just pulling down the straights, and he's just convinced James is just hooked up. So keep your eye on him as he'll be on the outside on row 1 to start this race.
We've talked about the differences in the engines, and there are multiple solutions there, but it is pretty wide open as far as chassis options go as well.
Absolutely, yeah. You've got the Scorpions, and so that's what you'll be seeing that Clint McMahon's running. And you've got the, really, you look at Aaron Ellis's chassis. He's actually a custom chassis he builds himself, and it's got his own custom body work on that one. In fact, he does his own. He actually does his own aerodynamics wind tunnel test that body, and you'll see he'll be the 3rd one on the grid today. One of the things new for that car this year is actually a front aero nose piece. Is not a full nose like you'll see on the first 2 cars. You can see there. On Calvin Stewart's white car, and you can see there on the James Wheater's car, kind of the full nose. You look just off to the back of the shot there, and you'll see him roll off there on Aaron Ellis's. It's just kind of a couple of pieces in front of the wheels. That's something new this year that he's added, but that's a whole custom chassis on that one. And then you've got the Nova cars in this class as well as the Novak garage has built a lot of these. And then you got some of the older chassis, the KBSs, the old Red Devils and things. So yeah, there's a lot of variety that's in this field when it comes to chassis as well as we talked about the engines.
Makes for a fun dynamic when the green flag flies. And we'll be having that green flag for you here very, very soon. The field making its way out for its single formation lap. These races, 13 laps or 40 minutes, whichever comes first. And it will be Calvin Stewart from Novi, Michigan, leading this field to the green. He is your Tire Rack Pole Award winner, driving a Novacar Blade chassis with the Suzuki power plant. James Wheater from West Lafayette, Indiana, will start on the outside of the front row. Aaron Ellis from Farmington, Minnesota, and Clint McMahon, the pick to win from Sports Car Magazine, defending national champion. They are in row number 2. Row 3 belongs to Eric McCree from Lapeer, Michigan, and Stephen Jondal from Rushford, Minnesota. Daryl Greening and Jeff DeLong will start 7th and 8th. Daryl from Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, just down the road. Jeff, a little bit further down the road from Atlanta, Georgia. Jason Martin will start 9th alongside Jack Walbrin. Starting 11th, H. Corey McLeod from Charlotte, North Carolina. Carl Mayer will start in the 12th spot. David Vincent starts 13th with Timothy Freist in the 14th spot, both from Leavenworth, Kansas. And the final row, George Bugg from Tony, Alabama, and Chuck McCabe from Sykesville, Maryland, starting 15th and 16th. This Road America track, a classic since it was built in 1955. Basically nothing about the track layout has changed since then. These 4 miles and 14 corners have been challenging drivers for decades.
Yeah, this place, essentially, they just looked at this plot of land, laid out some pavement, said, let's make this into a racetrack, and essentially, like you say, for the better part of 60-some-odd years, unchanged, and that's a really rare thing these days when it comes to racetracks, and it is beautiful. It smells and sights and everything is about racetracks. At this time of year, it is so picturesque with the array of colors in the backdrop. As the sunrise this morning, and later today we'll see the sunset across. It is just such a beautiful scene for championship runoffs. It's just unbelievable.
There were some awards in the build-up to Hagerty Race Days, going back to the qualifying days. Our Sunoco Day 1 qualifying award is the Sunoco 260 award. It goes to the driver who posted a time on Day 1 of qualifying with the tenths of a second, going as close to .260 as possible. That's our 9th place starter, Jason Martin from River Grove, Illinois, who earned 10 gallons of gas courtesy of Sunoco for that achievement. There was also a Hawk Breakthrough Award. That was for the driver on Hawk Breaks Day 2 of qualifying that improved lap times the most from Day 1 to Day 2. Daryl Greening in the 03 from Fond du Lac earns that award. He will start in the 7th position here today. And, of course, the Tire Rack Pole Award goes to Calvin Stewart from Novi, Michigan, a long-time go-kart racer. Told me he won something like 10 karting championships before he came and went SCCA racing. And the comparison in these cars to karts, it's pretty apt. That karting experience does transfer.
Having experience in both, I can tell you there's a whole lot of comparison. The biggest similarity between these is the rear axle. These cars have some suspension, karts don't. So the front end is allowed to move a little bit. They've got a puck that they use as kind of their so-called spring. The back has some movement, but that solid rear axle is a zero diff. It is just a pipe that spins. And the key to these things is getting that to move around a lot that allows the car to actually rotate and to throw the weight around. Very much like a kart. So getting them to work, getting the chassis to work is very, very similar. So a lot of kart drivers make the transition to these F5s and F600s very smoothly. Oh, we've already got a car pulling off to the side.
That is very unfortunate to see. That's the 58 of H. Corey McLeod from Charlotte, North Carolina, in a Novacar J10 Suzuki, pulling off to the side of the track. Not what you want to see after all the effort that went into qualifying to be here, then all the effort leading up to the race itself. You want to at least take that green flag and get to experience the magic that is the runoffs.
Yeah, and he's one of the longtime competitors out here in this field. So that is definitely a disappointment to not be able to run this. I think was going to be his 14th start. So, yeah.
That is correct. Yeah, no previous medal finishes, but 4 top 10s in those 13 previous starts. Best finish of 6th back in Daytona in 2015. Quickly did want to go back to the Clint McMahon story. The pick to win, the favorite coming in, the defending national champion, and for good reason. He's been on quite a tear here recently. You look at his last 4 runoffs appearances, finished 2nd at Laguna in 14, was on pole at Daytona in 15, but didn't have the finish he was looking for there, had some misfortune early, but then won at Indy, won at VIR, so he's 2 for 2 in his last 2 starts at the runoffs. And he'll have to start from the 4th position, not something he's used to because he's a 3-time pole sitter at the runoffs.
One last note before we go green. The top 5 were separated by 1.8 seconds on the grid. From 5th to 6th, it's a 4-second gap. We're looking at a 5-car front break away from this field. That's basically from Stewart down to Eric McCree, and there's McCree in that orange car. Look for that group to really just take off early.
Love the diversity of this class. So many different solutions, chassis, engines, all kinds of different options. It's a great looking field and a great sounding field, and we're about to set them loose as they come up the hill awaiting the green flag. Calvin Stewart will start on the inside of row 1 in the white car. It's James Weida from Indiana starting in the 2nd position. Aaron Ellis and Clint McMahon, row number 2. Row 3 is Eric McCree and Steven Jondal as the green flag flies. We are racing in the 2020 F500 National Championship. Stewart with a great start off the bat. And now it's fanning out pretty wide behind him. Here comes a brave move to the inside. That is the 43 car of Aaron Ellis, able to take his homegrown machine to the lead as they go through turn 1 for the first time.
Yeah, Weida got shuffled all the way to the back of this pack. He looked like he was already got a decent jump there, but watching now McMahon, look at Clint, as he was also stayed back, kind of watched that turn 1, and now he's moved his way past Eric McCree, already now on the back of Ellis, ready to pounce. He wants to get right up there and watch Calvin. He does not want to lose this pack.
McMahon made that brave move to the outside of turn number 3 and got a great head of steam. Look at that, 2 wheels in the grass coming down into turn 5. Stewart squirming around under the brakes, and McMahon makes a bid for the lead, sweeping around the outside, the defending national champion to P1.
Wow, that was an amazing move. As he's watching on the inside, like you had said, as there's Stewart and Ellis were all dicing, and he just went right around that outside and said, guys, I got this. Now everyone's going to be chasing that defending champ. This is not what they wanted to see.
McCree had the great start, now running in the 3rd position in the Dayglow orange car. He's got the pole sitter, Calvin Stewart, nipping at his heels, and that's James Weida running behind Stewart. So the front row has fallen back to positions 4 and 5, not the start that they had envisioned when they were going through their plans in their head, trying to sleep last night.
No, not at all. This is not how they expected this to go, as they're now looking up. It's like the entire grid just inverted right off the start here with these top 5. But they're already breaking away, as you can see, as they come down here through the kink on this first lap.
First time through this section here, making their way towards Canada Corner. Daunting turn, great passing opportunity, but no one close enough to challenge Clint McMahon, who is out in front in a commanding fashion. The battle right now is for the 2nd spot. And look at the dust up in the air as they come into the rising sun here in Wisconsin. McMahon with a huge lead from 4th on the grid. Running in the 2nd position, the 43 of Aaron Ellis, who grabbed the lead off the start, has settled into that 2nd position. And then they are in lockstep right behind.
That was all on the brakes going into Canada and coming out, because they were so evenly spaced and everything. And on the brakes, he looked a little bit squirrely, but he broke so late, so precise, and he got such a run coming out of Canada that by the time he got off of 14, he's just pulling car lengths. But Ellis now leading the pack, and then you got McCree and Cal Stewart. And look at Cal Stewart pointing him by to try and get in line here. I don't know if there's something up with Calvin, and of course now you got emergency vehicles off.
Yeah, I think he must have seen a local yellow, knows he can't make that pass with that section of the track covered by that yellow, so he gave that position back. That's a shame because he had a great run coming up the hill and into turn number 1. Now the battle is for the second position once again. That is Ellis trying to hold on. Calvin Stewart a little bit further back. Look at them. Maybe a brave move to the outside. The 46 is Eric McCree. Ellis guarding the inside line jealously, but McCree sweeping around the outside onto the very rough rumbles on the outside of turn 5. Can't make the outside pass stick that time.
Now McCree this week hasn't had the greatest week. He's kept shuffling back in that 4th and 5th position on the grid as we went through Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday qualifying. But as he admitted, I talked to him earlier in the week, he admitted that he's usually a bit of a slow starter, but he builds his speed as the week goes on. Did the same thing at the June sprints back here in the spring. Was chasing Calvin Stewart, through the practice Friday. As they got into the race on Sunday, he was able to make his move late and win that race on Sunday. So here he is kind of working his way through as you got Cal Stewart and James Wida, our front row, now sitting back here battling for 4th.
What a strange start this was. The front row really had a hard time getting going, and we haven't seen Calvin Stewart settle into a rhythm yet, but interesting, Hayward did talk about it. His fast laps tend to come at the end of the session, so don't give up on him if you're a Calvin Stewart fan. This is maybe the way that he likes to approach these things. He's been able to drop Wida a little bit, and he's got his eyes forward, focusing on this battle between Ellis and McCree.
Yeah, with Wida, the other comment that Clint McMahon had says, Wida's very good on the brakes. He does have a pretty good straight line speed, so that's going to help him here as if he's going to be able to make a move coming off of 14 down the front straight into 1. And let's see if he and Calvin are able to kind of work together a little bit and stick with this pack, see how well a pack of 4 can try and catch up. But at this point, look at that lead that Clint already has just 2 laps into this. That's amazing.
It was 1.7 seconds the first time by. We'll give you the gap in a moment. Here comes Stewart to the inside now, trying to grab that 3rd spot. He tried this move the last time and had to give it up because of the local yellow. He's clear before the braking zone this time, so the pole sitter starting to get back into a rhythm, moving his way back up towards the front, running in podium contention right behind Ellis. McCree taking a peek to the inside in turn 3, can't get it done, and that brings Wida into the fray.
That just totally cost him there. I think he may have been thinking mirrors, or maybe he even broke a little late, didn't want to get into him, but that just brought Wida right up to him and also put McCree in a bad position for corner exit off of 3. And that's the kind of thing that's how you lose the leaders when you do those kinds of things. If you're really trying to make sure you don't let McMahon get far away, but when you do those things, and here it is, there's Wida going right around McCree going into 5, but Wida outbrakes himself.
Yeah, we heard he's very confident on the brakes, but carried a bit too much speed into 5, and he pays the price. Did a nice job of wrangling the car back in, using the extra runoff that is there at the bottom of the hill in turn 5, and now he's going to have to settle himself back into a rhythm and try and run down this pack in front of him, as it looks like we've had another pass. Stewart has dropped back behind Ellis, takes a peek to the inside, lights up that left front tire, and able to keep that car under control. Here we have another move to the inside, looking inside the carousel. That's the 46 of McCree, but Stewart slams the door.
Yeah, McCree is just ready to pounce after he made his mistake back there at 3 that cost him a little bit. Now he's going to try and hold Calvin honest in going into the carousel. But watching Wida coming into 5 kind of reminded me that, talk about the engine differences. Think about going into the brakes. When you've got a typical 4-cylinder bike motor, you can use the engine to bring your speed down in addition to your brakes. When you're in that clutch-driven snowmobile powertrain, you really can't so much. You're really relying on just the brake system. So you have to really watch how you come into those kinds of corners. Using the brake balance is very different, trying to break that one down than trying to break down your typical 600cc bike motors.
Wida able to make the pass into Canada corner that time, so he did recover nicely, getting back around McCree, who's fallen off a little bit after a really nice start to this race. And up at the front, I think that's still Ellis holding down the 2nd spot. It is indeed. There is Wida, the black with the yellow stripe down the front. A veteran for sure of this class, as so many of them are. Talking to these drivers, they're so enthusiastic about the class, and we can see that with 16 cars on the grid. There's a lot to be excited about right now. This is David Vincent in the red car from Leavenworth, Kansas. And this is a little bit further back in the pack. Vincent running currently in the 12th position. The 6th car on the screen is George Bugg, who started second to last. George at the moment has done a nice job charging up to the 11th spot, so he is actually up 4 spots here in the early going, coming up the hill.
One of our rookies here in this F5 field is Jorg, all the way here from the Tennessee Valley region.
That's right, actually hails from Tony, Alabama, so that gives you an idea of how sprawling that region happens to be. But a big haul to get up here and a chance to experience one of the great road courses in North America. And the 73 car, David Vincent, running back in the 12th spot as it stands under the Briggs & Stratton Bridge. And these two staying within a reasonable distance of one another. That's one of the fun things about the runoffs, isn't it? That even if you're not challenging for the lead or the podium, you can usually find somebody to fight, and all the positions at the runoffs are a big deal. One car off the pace there, dropping back a little bit. The yellow and black car, and didn't have a chance to catch a number on that one. We'll do our best to identify that in just a moment.
Didn't see who that was either. But you're right, though. Even though you may not be fighting for the lead, but there's always going to be somebody your pace, and you find these kinds of battles that go on. And we talked about the powertrain differences, and even in this point in the pack of the race, these two are, again, very different power plants. Here's one on a 2-stroke versus the other in the 4-stroke bike motor. And there's the number 78. I think that's Jason Martin, another one of our runoffs rookies from the Chicago region.
That's right. No previous experience in the runoffs and just soaking it all up. It's a unique experience for sure. Nothing in the club racing world really prepares you for the week of preparation, all the stress, and not a lot of track time. You spend a lot of time working on that car, and you don't get a chance to get out on track and learn about it too often. So you really have to be on your game, which is why we see the veterans running towards the front so regularly. Here's Stewart again putting the pressure on Ellis for the 2nd position.
Ellis is just staying cool, but Cal, I don't know, Cal really seems to want to get around him.
Aaron Ellis, a veteran of the runoffs, 23 previous appearances, did win a national championship back at Mid-Ohio back in the year 2000.
All 3 of those running together are former winners. Ellis, 2000 in this class, I believe. We talked about Cal Stewart, won at Daytona in this class. Wida won at Road America right here back in 2013. So these guys right now trying to get right now for 2nd. They're all former winners here, so these folks know what they're doing. And McCree is just kind of sitting back and watching. He's certainly not out of this mix.
McMahon has sprinted ahead to a lead of 4.6 seconds the last time by the line, but this battle here, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and you could throw 5th in there as well, covered by less than 2 seconds. Here comes Wheaton down the inside of Stewart. That was bold. He makes it stick.
Look at that braking move down on the inside there. The challenge now is you got to go through the kink and all the way down to Canada with Calvin just hounding the back of you.
We talked about how these are veterans of this class. That also means they've raced with one another a lot. They know what to expect from each other. That is a big benefit when you're racing this close in some very high-speed portions of the track. And I'm sure Calvin has seen that move from Wheaton before.
I'm sure he has. And look at Wheaton now. He's staying up close to Ellis. Wheaton looks like he's got his pace on now. Early in the race, we saw right at the start, and that first lap just kind of got shuffled back. Maybe, I don't know if the motor wasn't warmed up to how he liked it, if things just weren't quite to hit the way he felt comfortable, but he certainly looks like he's in his comfort zone now. Look at the pressure coming on to 14 here.
Yeah, he's turned it on, that's for sure. He's a 2-time medalist at the runoffs, got balked a little bit on the corner exit. Looked like he might have had to lift to avoid some contact, and that's let Stewart right back in. These cars, momentum is everything. If you have to lift in a section where your competitors don't, you're a sitting duck.
Yeah. And look at these 3. You could just throw a blanket over all 3 of them. And again, McCree is just kind of watching this.
Here comes Stewart shuffling to the front of this group, able to get by Ellis. That opens the door to the inside now. And Wheaton, Johnny on the spot, ready to capitalize. We know he's late on the brakes.
I wish I was in the middle of this. This just looks like so much fun.
I have to believe there's a big smile under the helmet in balaclava for all four involved, and maybe McCree smiling more than the rest because the three guys ahead of them, they're squabbling for position. That's let him right back into this fight.
Just at the halfway point. I can't believe we're only halfway through this. And again, like you just said, McCree says, hey, thanks, guys, for dicing it up. And I'm right here. Thanks.
For McCree, only 2 previous runoffs appearances, did get a medal last year, finished 3rd at VIR. Ooh, that's pretty defensive there at the front, but maybe there was a lesson learned on the last lap on the part of Cal Stewart. He saw James Weida took any invitation that was available, so he's not even going to give a sniff of the inside line.
So we've already seen the pass going into 8 right here on the last lap. So that was a bit of a defensive move coming into 6. So let's keep our eye on that late in the race. We know that you can easily pass into 8. We know we can pass into Canada. We've seen a pass going up the front straight. So essentially there's about 6 passing zones in these cars on this track.
Carousel looks like it is just a blast in these cars. Not much rubber to speak of on them. A lot of power. Not much weight. You slide around.
They're
a little bit aero.
900 pounds in these the 4-strokes, 850 in the 2-stroke. And as I mentioned, there is some suspension, but the chassis itself has to work. There's got to be a little bit of twist in that chassis. And if you've seen the photo that was posted by the SCCA earlier this week of Clint McMahon's car, you saw the inside left front tire around. I think it was coming off a 6. And that's actually by design. You want to kind of move the front tires up and down. You get to get the chassis to move the weight around. And that's just how these things work. Like we talked about earlier, the comparisons to go-karts. That's really what these things do best. And just watching these guys throw them around, it makes long sweepers very dicey when you don't have real classic moving suspension that can kind of suck up the bumps. It makes it very dicey. So you got to have really fast hands, and you got to be able to predict that bit of slide. You need slip angle to make them work. And these drivers obviously are all veterans in this class. They know what they're doing.
McMahon out in front by over 5 seconds, but the battle for second rages on. More from the F500 National Championship race in just a moment.
Today's broadcast of the SCCA Runoffs is brought to you by Mazda. Feel alive.
When the finish line calls, we answer. Hit the road with insurance protection from Hagerty. Whether you drive a built racer, sports car, or exotic, and save an average of $264. Get a quote today at Hagerty.com.
It's happening more often, and that's not surprising. People are getting lost to find themselves. And discovering the best part is often hidden in the journey along the way. The first ever CX-30. Performance that inspires with available iActive all-wheel drive.
The battle for second in F500 here at Road America continues to rage. While we were away, James Weida putting some pressure on Calvin Stewart, forced Calvin to make a slight error, and that's let Weida through. And you can see now Calvin at the back of this picture. He was leading this train, about a minute ago, and that shows you how quickly things can change here in F500, especially at the runoffs. Here's a look at what happened. This was down into turn 5, so Weida putting the pressure on the inside, just got Stewart to get too late on the brakes. Ran long there in the braking zone. Did a nice job, though, to gather it back up, and still very much in the thick of the fight for a podium finish.
Yeah, don't count him out of this at all, because we saw Weida do the same thing on about lap 3 or 4. So this could easily tighten back up. Right now, the one who's in his biggest groove is probably James Weida, and so we'll keep an eye on him. But the most consistent in this pack is Aaron Ellis. He really just doesn't seem to be putting a tire wrong. Everyone else is having a good lap or a bad lap, and they would pull ahead of him, and then they would have a bad corner and back off. But Ellis is just very consistent right now in this group.
Here comes Stewart, able to get back past McCree as they cross the start-finish line. Able to get that spot by, 74 hundredths of a second. McCree's a guy who doesn't have a lot of experience, but you talk to those that do, and Clint McMahon, who is leading this race right now, one of them, he was talking in the build-up to this race. He was really impressed by what Eric McCree did at VIR a year ago, and says with a little bit more experience, he could be a factor. And, well, we've seen that. He's run in the top 5 this whole time. In that group, 2nd to 5th, they have been right there fighting with one another from the drop of the green flag.
Yeah, I talked to McCree as well, and McCree started working with a driver's coach this year, something he hadn't been doing for a long time. Because he said he felt like he had reached that plateau, like a lot of drivers do. We're like, okay, the car is tuned like I want it to be. I've got this certain level of experience, but I'm not going faster. So he finally got himself a coach. I believe his name was John Block, same coach actually that has been working with Clint McMahon. And he really felt like that was something that has moved his game a little bit further. You know, thinking about what's the car doing, thinking about really knowing every single braking point on every area of the track, something that, you know, in the past he would just sort of visualize it. Now he actually knows. His great shot of Clint McMahon coming around the carousel there. But that's something that some of these drivers, as you reach that plateau, take to the next step, more coaching. You're never too old to continue to learn.
Taking a look at timing and scoring, McMahon's times have come down. That lead was up around 6 seconds. It's down under 5 now. James Weida just did the fastest lap of the race the last time by, a 2:21.956. Compare that to McMahon's 2:23.422. We also saw Aaron Ellis put in a personal best time the last time by. So that group, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and even McCree down in 5th, starting to pick up the pace a little bit relative to McMahon. And you were talking about him earlier. The week that he has had, it has not been trouble-free. I have to imagine that's in the back of his mind.
Yes, absolutely. You know, he had a couple of chains that he threw in qualifying. He had an engine issue. He's had a wheel bearing go. Those things start getting in your head as the week goes on. And if you start feeling something, you just get out of confidence. Now, he may have just come up on some lap traffic and was careful to get around them. I do see on this lap that he just finished, though, the pace, again, not great. He's decent in the first sector, but what I'm seeing now is Cal Stewart, again, is continuing to try and creep up back on this group after that lap that he had. But we'll keep an eye on that margin as it's getting down now to around 4 seconds here with about four laps to go.
And that's worth noting, 4 laps around Road America, that's 16 miles. 14 times 4, whatever that is, that's the number of corners still to go. So lots of opportunities for the trailing pack to be able to make up that gap, and we really just have not seen the outright pace out of McMahon here over the last 3 or 4 laps.
It's McCree that seems to have just fallen off the pace there on that last lap or so, as we may now have a 3-dog fight for the 2nd spot, or if McMahon continues to fall through, we might have a 4-dog fight for the top spot.
Taking a look at another battle here that's going on. That's George Bugg in the 6. He's fighting with the 73 of David Vincent and has been able to make that pass. So George Bugg really charging from the back of the starting grid. He qualified 15th, did not set a time in the first day of qualifying, had a good run on day 2 relative to the rest of his week, struggled on the 3rd day, on Tire Rack Pole Day, but it seems like it's rounding into form a little bit for him. And while I'm sure it's frustrating not having the qualifying result that you're looking for, there is something fun about, all right, I'm starting in the back. Let's just pass as many cars as we can today.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I'm sure these two are just having a blast, just kind of seeing, you know, where to pick their spots. And I don't know that this is going to be over here, as I'm kind of still watching, watching Bug try and chase him back down. It's kind of fun to see it on the front straight to see if he's got anything for him, if Vincent can get around Bug again. But you see he's right back up on his tail coming on at 14. So I think these two are going to stick together here for the next couple of laps.
We've seen great racing up and down the field. Doesn't matter what position it's for. Looks like Bug a little bit quicker in a straight line, though. He's able to stretch that advantage. And he's been the man on the move since the start of this race. Currently running back in the 10th spot, a top 10 finish for him. I'm sure he would be quite happy with, given the struggles over the course of the week. And again, this is a Runoffs rookie, so he's just learning every single lap of the weekend.
Just watch him there as he's coming into 3. They're using every ounce of track. Take a look at that margin as we head back towards our leaders. And right there, as you can see, Ellis and Stewart, they're 3rd and 4th. But take a look at that gap on the ticker there. McMahon, Weida, 2.8 seconds as Weida just set fastest lap of the race with a 21.3. McMahon's last lap was a 22.6. So McMahon's a little bit better on pace. He did get a better lap in, but Weida is just coming into his own as the battle right now for 3rd. Ellis and Stewart is tightening up. But I wonder what's going through Clint McMahon's mind right now.
It's It's fun thinking about it. Again, given the struggles that they've had with mechanical problems throughout the course of the week, maybe there's a desire to baby the car a little bit and make sure that you can find a way to get to the finish, but that gets harder and harder to do when you see Weida getting closer and closer. That is the difference. Weida is coming. Carved 1.3 seconds out of the lead the last time by. Into the braking zone, turn number 8. Ahead to the carousel. He can see his quarry just up the road. That is inspirational when you're behind the wheel. You see the lead right up there. Now you just got to go and get it.
Oh, the rabbit is there, and he is chasing him down. Interestingly, again, I talked to Clint yesterday, and he said one of the things he knows he has to do is stay off the curbs. We had that great camera shot coming through 6 where he did. He's just going from painted line to painted line, and then right behind him is James Weida just clobbering the exit curb at 6. And it's like, well, at this point in the race, if Weida can take that risk and get a little bit better carrying exit speed coming off of these corners, he can be a little faster and take those risks where we know that Clint can't.
Calvin Stewart putting some pressure onto Ellis. That's the battle for the final podium position. Battle for 3rd right here. But to your point about the curbs, talking to some people, some drivers that maybe raced here a decade ago or something along those lines, and now they're back for the first time in quite a while. The track layout hasn't changed, but the curbing sure has. When stock cars started coming here, they had to make them a bit more rough to be more of a deterrent to those big cars, and as a consequence now they are very rough for a car like an F500 as Stewart makes the pass out of 14. He's got 3rd, but here comes Ellis. It just swings back and forth. They do have some lap traffic to deal with here.
It's that battle we were just talking about a minute ago with David Vincent and George Bugg. That's where these leaders are now coming through. Just taking a note, watching the timers here is McMahon and Weida. McMahon was able to do a couple of good sectors there, but that 3rd sector, he just fell off again. Weida didn't, so Weida's able to continue to chip away.
But running out of time, just over 2 laps remaining in this race. The gap is 2.5 seconds. The difference between the two the last time by was not all that significant, just 0.3 of a second. Now, there might have been some lap traffic involved in that. If we can get back to the kind of difference between the two that we saw earlier, then we might have ourselves with a battle on our hands. Let's drop back and take a look at this fight right here. That's Jeff DeLong from Atlanta, I believe, in the 66, leading this pack. And didn't get a good look at the
Jason
car.
Martin.
Yes, I believe you're right, Jason Martin. So this is the battle for 8th and 9th. Here comes Martin to the inside, able to get it done in Canada corner.
Big lock up there from Jeff DeLong going into Canada. These guys know they've got all of about another 2.5 laps here. So they know their work is definitely not done. And these two, again, we know that there's going to be some late game heroics going on here between these two cars.
And again, you look at them and just visually you can see the difference between the chassis, and that's one fun thing in an era where spec racing is taking over the world of motorsports. Here at the Runoffs and certainly here in Formula 500, you can see still the differences in chassis, difference in aerodynamic principles, different power plants, and it makes for a really interesting show and a bit of a throwback as well to days gone by.
On this lap so far and through 2 sectors, we just taken out another, I think, 8 more tenths.
And we'll know a bit more at the line. There visually you can see the gap, and indeed it is closer, but not much time left. Can Weida track him down? That's the 2nd place car right there on your screen. His prey is just up the road. Let's see what the gap is. 1.8 seconds now between 1st and 2nd. It's about 5 seconds further back to Calvin Stewart, who still holds the 3rd spot, still fighting for it with Aaron Ellis.
But Weida is just hungry right now. He can just smell it. He's so close. If he just got to really focus in on getting his corner exits off of corner like this, off of corner 3. Then he's just got to be super crisp and clean through the 2nd sector that he's going to be coming up to, through turns 5 and 6, and Clint has just got to be in his head reminding himself to be inch perfect, to just stay off of those curbs and to just not ruin the car. Again, they've got a lap and a half here to go. Lap and a half with a 2.5 seconds, and that's about the pace. That's about how much time that Weida's been taking out. That's about a second a lap. So I do suspect we're going to be coming down to a late race heroic move here from Canada all the way up to the finish stripe.
Calvin Stewart looking about as comfortable as he has all race long in that third spot. Has a little bit of a margin over a second the last time by since being able to make that pass on Ellis. Here is McMahon, the favorite coming in. Started only 4th in this race, but got a great start. He was leading by the time they left turn 5 on the opening lap and has not been challenged since, but that's starting to change. James Weida closing in, now maybe close enough to get a bit of that slipstream effect through the kink, which is flat out in these cars. Very fast, very daunting, and now the run down to Canada Corner for the penultimate time.
First sector, Weida took another 4/10ths out. Second sector took another 10th, so there's 5 more tenths. So it's about 1.3 going into Canada Corner between the two of them. It should be about 1 second coming at the stripe, and that'll be definitely within drafting zone.
And that's about what Weida's been able to pull in without the help of the toe on every lap for the last 4 or 5. He has just been chopping away at Clint McMahon's lead. Here we go, turn 14, waiting for that white flag. Clint McMahon out in front. James Weida as close as he has been since the start of this race. White flag in the hand of the starter. Final tour of Road America. And a problem here. Jason Martin in Canada Corner. It's going to be a local yellow there, so that takes away a potential passing zone. That's something to keep in mind.
That may have been the one he was thinking about, but then again, you can still pass coming off of 14 up the straights. You just need to be super tight on his tail coming off of Canada.
McMahon out in front. Here's the long run down to turn 5. Weida in the slipstream, trying to get close. Can he get close enough? We've seen McMahon late on the brakes early in this race, coming through turn number 5. That's how he got to the lead. He's not had to defend it since then. He just sprinted off into the rising sun here in the Kettle Moraine region of Wisconsin. But that is changing. James Weida on the charge now. That lead at the line was 1 second, and it's closed since then.
Weida is so good on the brakes going into 5. You could just see it where Clint just looked a little bit more tentative on the brakes there. And we saw earlier that Weida was able to outbrake Cal Stewart coming into 8 here. Weida, again, we know he's good on the brakes at 8. And there, a little bit of curbing there on the apex for Clint. And I was saying he was trying to stay off of those. This is the point of desperation. You just use whatever you got.
Any opportunity to build that lead, build that margin. Weida was a bit wide there on the exit of 8. Here we come through the carousel. Not close enough to think about anything here in Canada Corner. Probably can't do it anyway, given the local yellow for the situation we saw a moment ago. Ellis has reeled Stewart back in as well, so we might yet have a battle for the final step of the podium before this thing is all said and done.
It's about 7/8 tenths, I think, between them. McMahon actually was a 10th quicker through sector 2 there on that lap, this lap here than James, but it's all going to come down to who can get a run off of Canada after the local yellow. And same thing here for the last step of the podium.
Calvin Stewart, the Michigander, holding on to that third spot for the moment. Up front, here is McMahon through turn 14, trying to go back-to-back in Formula 500, won the national championship for the second time last year at VIR. Pressure coming from Weida behind, but he's not going to be close enough. Fist in the air, your national champion in 2020, Clint McMahon, going back-to-back in F500. Here's the battle for third, and a big thumbs up from Calvin Stewart, who was able to hold off the charge from Ellis and take that final podium position.
Wow, what a race.
McCree across the line. He'll come home in 5th. A nice job by the relatively inexperienced driver who was mixing it up with the 4 at the front for the first half of the race before dropping off a little bit. Still gets a nice top 5 to put on the CV from the runoffs here at Road America. But you're right, that was a frantic race. Great battling between the top 5, and McMahon not able to maintain the pace he showed early on relative to the rest of the group, and Weida really was pouring it on.
Seeing how he was able to Clint was able to, a couple times I was watching his third sectors, he did a personal best third sector about 2 laps from the end. He was able to pull out that second sector on that last lap that was really quick. I wonder if he was a bit of saving the car. I also noticed on the out lap, he was the only one not scrubbing tires. He was just basically saving the car. I wonder if he was just really managing his gap, and just to make sure he just barely won. So I'll be curious what comments he's got for Hayward come at the end. Weeda, what a great, early on, didn't have the pace, got shuffled back, stayed in it, and then just came into that groove and just wanted one more lap, I think.
The 2013 champ from back here at Road America, James Weeda, showing off that track knowledge, that's for sure. That was his only previous podium at the Runoffs, so now adds another one, both here at Road America from a few hours south of here in northern Indiana, West Lafayette. So has quite a bit of track time here at this race. That is his 5th top 5 finish now in 12 Runoffs appearances. Put on a show for us trying to chase down Clint McMahon, and I think you're right. 1, maybe 2 more laps, and he would have been there.
I think so. Yeah, he's a bit of the late bloomer of the race. Just had to get into his groove, get into that rhythm, and he certainly did. And maybe a little bit of shuffling early on with Cal Stewart, with McCree, with Ellis. He just kind of needed to clear that, and then once he was able to zone in on McMahon, he just started putting down personal best and chipping away at that lead. And once he could see Clint coming off of corners, he really was able to get close and make Clint think about it. This will be fun listening to both their comments here.
Looking forward to hearing from them, that's for sure. And then for Calvin Stewart from the town of Novi, Michigan, which has itself such a rich racing history. If you go back about a half a century to the powerful Novi cars that thundered around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, famous for their great speed, but never for their reliability, unfortunately. But the likes of Jim Hurtubise and Chet Miller and many other legends of that era driving those cars, well, they were designed and built there in Novi, Michigan, lent their name to the cars. And Calvin Stewart, in his own way, continuing that tradition of motorsports. Well, this race really showed why Road America is such hallowed ground for road racing in North America. So many different types of corners, multiple chances to get passing done, drafting comes into play. It really challenges every facet of a racing driver, and to win here is something special.
It takes a special race builder, an engine builder, a chassis builder. It takes a special driver, and the place races so well that you have to have race craft as well as your driving, just absolute skill as a driving by yourself, as we saw Weeda catching a driver like McMahon, and then you have to have the race craft as we were watching all that dicing and the chess moves going on. It was just brilliant. Love this place.
For Clint McMahon now, a 3rd national championship, 2nd in a row as well. That is his 5th podium, 5th time he has medaled in 10 Runoffs appearances. Pretty remarkable there, batting 50%.
3 out of 4. He's
That's
on
a
quite
good
a run.
point.
Yeah.
That's a very good point. And in fact, 3 in a row for the ones that he has entered.
Very true.
Because he had not been in the field for a couple of years prior to last year. He ran and won at Indianapolis, then joined us at VIR, now here at Road America. So quite a hot streak for Clint McMahon, who was the pick to win. The smart money was on him coming in, but it really didn't look like it was going to be his week, given the way things had transpired prior to the race.
VIR last year, he was very confident. When you talked to him, he was confident in a way of almost strutting around a little bit. He knew what he had under him. He knew his confidence in his driving. But you saw him late yesterday, and he was just a little bit more dejected. I suspect we're going to see a lot of relief on this man's face.
Well, let's hear from him now. A 3-time national champion, and he's joined by our Hayward Wagner.
Clint McMahon, Clint, you almost made it look easy this year. Talk to me about the drive.
The drive was pretty tough this week, man. It's like front bearings went out twice. Back brake line just blew. We only got one good qualifying session, one whole qualifying session, 4 laps or so, and all the other ones. We just had a really, really rough week. No matter how much I prepared the car, it just didn't do what I wanted it to do. And I knew going into the race that we were going to have to be just absolutely perfect on every single lap that we could, because I knew the speed these other guys had, but I also knew the weaknesses that they had. We capitalized on their weaknesses right off the bat, and we knew that Weeda was going to be there in the end. He had the speed all week. We didn't. The only thing that separated him from us was our ability to jump out on the beginning. And I love having Hayward guys. By the way, this guy's been around me my entire life. He's watched me come up in solo. He's watched me road race. You know, I've had lots of guys that's been around me all my life, but I think this is one of the guys that is more instrumental as far as being able to have to know him, you know, him coming up through the ranks at SCCA, and now he's interviewing me, you know, which is freaking awesome.
It's always good to have a friendly face when you get back with a big win. Congratulations to you, Clint. Enjoy your victory lap.
Yeah, thank you, man. I would like to thank everybody on my crew. Buddy Bob, my dad. They worked their tails off. It was 12, 14 hours a day for like 6 straight days. And those guys were here from sun up till sundown. We ate DoorDash every single night at our hotel. It was just everything that we could do to get the speed out of the car, you know. Can't thank those guys enough. And as always, you know, this is Jim Murphy's car. You know, I drive it, and without him, it wouldn't be possible.
Well, congratulations to you, to Jim, the whole team. Clint makes it look easy on track, but a lot of work going on behind the scenes to deliver a national championship here in F5.
Yes, 12 to 14-hour days, 6 days in a row. You can hear the emotion in his voice, and there's no question as to why. That amount of sacrifice that goes into this event, and that's true up and down the paddock. And Clint able to reward his team with a big win. Let's look at the final finishing order here. Clint McMahon winning by just over a half a second over James Guida. Calvin Stewart brings home the final podium position. Aaron Ellis and Eric McCree, both with very strong races, both in the mix for podiums for much of the race. Stephen Jondal, a good job finishing in the 6th spot. Darrell Greening, Jeff DeLong, David Vincent, and George Bugg, our hard charger from the back of the pack, ends up with a top 10 finish in Formula 500.
Yeah, just really quite the effort there, and Clint really almost understated the amount of effort that went in, and this is kind of a theme across the entire paddock. This is, you know, what he stated is going to be something we're going to be hearing a lot of. 12, 14, 16-hour days under the lights, take out food, just keep working to get these things going. That's been a theme, and you could just hear that emotion in his voice of just like, I can't believe that this all at least came to something that we finished, and let alone finish on the top step.
Well, James Guida finished second. He was a hard charger there for sure, kept us on the edge of our seats, and Hayward has found him.
James, you told me before the race that you were going to have some speed at the end. What would you give for that to have been a 16 or 17 lap race?
It would have worked out into my advantage. I got held up a little bit at the start, had to work through the traffic, and then once I got that, I sort of gapped them. But yeah, even one more lap would have helped.
There in the middle of the race, it looked like the 4 of you guys kind of running for second were really kind of intent to battle for second instead of trying to run Clint down. When did you get your chance to make the break?
It's hard to remember. I think I got by Cal somewhere, and then we were going down into 5, and I outbroke him, and I think he sort of went wide. But that was fun racing with Cal and Eric and Aaron. I mean, we were having a battle, and Clint was just slowly creeping away, which I knew all of us were thinking we got to get to the front so we can run him down.
Well, congratulations to you here on the podium, the silver. Next year we'll see if we can move that up a step. Congratulations.
We'll try. We always strive for the gold.
Absolutely.
Thank
Let's
you.
bring Calvin in. Calvin Stewart. Got a hug here. Calvin, I know that the medal that you most wanted just went out on a victory lap, but you got to be happy to take one home regardless.
Well, you know, I thought we had a shot at it. It was my bad. I moved into second. I overcooked it going down into 5. And I had control of Sector 2, so I knew that I was quick in Sector 2. If I could just get by him at 5, that I had it covered. But I just overcooked it and went to the runoff and had to come back on and move back from 2nd to 5th, I think.
Tell me how much fun it is to drive these cars, to be popping through gears and dicing it out and battling with these guys. What is this experience like for you?
Man, you're just so incredible. You know, praise the Lord, you're shifting at 14,500 RPMs. You're back and forth, you're braking, you're downshifting. The cars are twitchy. You have to put them on the edge. They have to be a little loose to be fast. It's just incredible. You know, it reminds me of my go-karting days, but I just love this class.
Well, congratulations to you, sir, on another podium here at the Runoffs.
All right, thank you. Woohoo! Yeah.
Well, if that isn't the perfect advertisement for this class, I don't know what is.
Absolutely. Yeah, he is just so exuberant about this class. He's going to be around the class for a long time. That right there, I think we just need to put that out as the advertisement. Said if you want to run F5, you're not sure if you should, just watch a bit of Cal Stewart.
And Cal started on the pole, lost that spot though in the early going. It was Ellis able to jump to the lead early on, but quickly Clint McMahon from 4th on the grid went on the attack. It started here in turn 3 with this bold move around the outside, and he was already sizing up the top 2 for the big move that would put him out front to stay.
The move he did in 5 just after this, right here on this first lap, as those two on the inside, those 2 white cars were jostling it up, and he just said, I'm going to go right around the outside in 5 and never look back.
Ran mostly unchallenged until this man, James Weeda, started to roll him in. Towards the end of the race, was cutting about a second a lap off, but before he could get there, he was locked in this great duel with Calvin Stewart and Ellis and McCree. That's the moment that Stewart was telling us about, just going a little bit too deep into 5.
Yeah, and those kind of little mistakes would just cost you that second spot in the podium and things, but yeah.
Here's the run to the checkered, and for the second straight year, Clint McMahon wraps up the F500 championship. That's 3 now in his last 3 runoffs entries. Congratulations to him, as well as to James Weeda and Calvin Stewart, your medalists here today, and to all of our competitors who made the sacrifices necessary to be here and take part in the runoffs. That'll do it for F500. Plenty more racing still to come in the 57th Annual SCCA National Championship Runoffs. Television coverage presented by Mazda.